We are doing part 2 of my Q&A. That's what we're doing. Oh, here comes the rain. Such a good husband. I don't have bad taste. Welcome back. This is part 2 of my Q&A, trying to get through the rest of the questions that you had. But I don't know what I've done. I think I've mixed up the questions somehow because I thought I answered all of the questions in order up to a certain point, and then I thought I'll come back to them and then I'll just start at that point and move onwards. But I feel like they're a bit mixed up, so apologies if I end up missing your question and don't answer it. But I'm just going to push ahead anyway. So the Matryoshka, I hope I've said that right, left a really beautiful long comment with lots of praise. So thank you so much for that. I'll skip over that part and just get to the question, which is, how can we know the difference between having a passion and an addiction for perfumes? What draws the line? Is it our purchases? Thanks very much and have lovely holidays. This is a really interesting question, and I think in my last video I did sort of premise that whole topic of addiction by saying that I am not a medical professional. I haven't spoken to a medical professional about this particular issue that I had. But in general, my understanding is that an addiction is a behavior that you engage in and you feel compelled to engage in despite the fact that it may have negative consequences for you and you're aware that it has negative consequences for you. But obviously there's got to be some kind of upside in the sense of it makes you feel good somehow for one moment where you are compelled to do the thing. I'm sure that's a terrible definition for addiction. So again, this is not medical advice. This is just how I view it, I guess. That said, I think addiction is a step further than just having, say, me. I'm talking about very much about myself here and how I perceive my own behaviors. I use online shopping as a relief or a distraction from other things. And so it's not like I really feel compelled to shop. I can stop it if I want to. And I apologize for all the banging in the background. We've got builders next door. I can stop this if I want to. And I can physically. The problem for me, it's being able to stop myself at the right point and ask myself the question, do you really want to do this? And most of the time the answer to that would be no. And then I put my phone away and I go and do something else. So, a good example is in the last video that I just posted, which was my top 10 for January. I talk about the fact that I wanted to buy that bottle of Poudre d'Or from Mise en Cire, and I put it in the cart. I asked myself that exact question. Do I really want to be spending $300 and something on a bottle of perfume right now, given that it was Christmas time? And I said to myself, no, I don't know if I want to spend that right now. So I put it in the cart, I left it there, and I told myself I'd leave it there for a few days. And then, as it turns out, a much cheaper bottle came up that was in a price bracket that I felt comfortable spending, and I bought that instead. But if that bottle hadn't come up, I probably wouldn't have bought the bottle from Selfridges either. I feel like I know how that was going to play out. So Look, I don't know. I can't even tell you how it is that I managed to stop myself in that moment, even after I've put it in the cart. And it's such an easy thing to then just hit checkout. But I can do that. And for that reason, I feel like my shopping problem isn't an addiction. It's me distracting myself from things that I maybe don't want to deal with in my day-to-day life. But I'm conscious of it. I don't know if that helps. Possibly, maybe I should speak to a psychologist and actually get a definition. Maybe I should do that as like an interview or something. I don't know. Would people find that interesting? I feel like that might be interesting, even though it wouldn't necessarily be about perfume specifically. All right, so next question is from Madeline Vegan Perfume Girl. I'd love an update on how your perfume tracking / Airtable stuff is going, whether it's taught you anything or whether it has changed the way you wear or buy perfume. She's actually asked me 3 questions, so I'll answer the first one first. My Airtable tracking fell over, and the reason for that is that I was using the free version of Airtable, and it turns out that you can there's a data capacity under the free version, and after you reach that capacity you cannot add any more to your Airtable. But I misunderstood it, so I got that notification about a week into 2023, so I sort of recorded my first week of 2023, and then I got this notification saying you can't add any more. You either have to delete stuff out of your Airtable or you need to upgrade to a paid subscription. So I checked out the paid subscription and it was quite pricey. I think it was about $20 a month or something. And I just went, that's a ridiculous amount of money for me to pay for a tool that I'm really just tracking perfume with. Now, all of that said, Airtable is a productivity tool and you can use it for a bunch of different things. I just was not using it for all those other things that it was capable. So if I had been using it in my day-to-day life or, for managing my work and all that sort of stuff, then sure, maybe that price is reasonable. But for what I was using it for, I couldn't justify it. And then I kind of just fell off the wagon. I didn't record anything. I wasn't at that time compelled to start a spreadsheet or anything like that. So I didn't record anything in 2023. And over the Christmas break, I decided to go back into my Airtable and at least export the data that I had, because I'm pretty sure I had the full year of 2022 recorded. I could at least do something with that data to, do a video or something like that. And then when I went back in, what I realized was they weren't telling me that my whole account had reached a data capacity. It's just that each Airtable only has so many lines of data that you can put into it. And I think it's 1,000 lines. And so I went, oh, that means that I can start a new Airtable for 2024 and it's got no data in it, and therefore I can start populating that. And indeed I can do that. So I have copied that Airtable template from 2022 and I've created a new one for 2024, and I exported all of the 2022 data into a spreadsheet. So I do like the Airtable because it allows me to record notes on what I'm smelling. And if I'm sampling something, or even if I'm wearing a full bottle of something out of my wardrobe, if I'm wearing a perfume on different days and I'm getting different things from it on different days, then this enables me to record my thoughts on that perfume on that given day with a date stamp, and then I can also record any particular changes in weather or anything like that that I notice that might be leading to those changes. So I do like the Airtable for the purpose of recording notes, but I don't record notes on everything that I wear every single day. So for the purpose of just recording what I'm wearing, I think the journal, the hard copy journal, is working really, really well. And I think what I'll use the Airtable for going forward is to record notes, and particularly when I'm analysing things and reviewing samples and things like that, I think Airtable will be perfect for that. So that was a very long-winded answer to your very simple question, but now you know what I'm doing, what my process is. So let's see how this goes in 2024. Your second question was, has it taught you anything, or has it changed the way you wear or buy perfume? I'm trying to think back to 2022, so bear with me, when I was actively using the Airtable. Because the reason I'm thinking about it so hard is because in the Airtable that I created, I had a ranking system. I could rate those perfumes. And I think, yes, in 2022, I wasn't buying perfume anyway, so it's kind of hard to judge. But maybe going forward for 2024, I can maybe focus on how I'm rating those perfumes or samples that I'm trying, and seeing if there is like a cutoff in terms of ranking where I say anything below 4 stars for me doesn't make it onto the buy list, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying not to buy everything that I like anyway, obviously, because I can't afford to, and B, I have literally a whole cupboard full of perfumes, so I can never wear them all. But the answer is I don't know, I guess, to that question, because the circumstances under which I was using the Airtable was that I wasn't buying perfume, and now that I am buying perfume again, I haven't been using the Airtable yet. So what I will say though is that my no buy year definitely changed how I buy perfume and how often I buy perfume. So watch this space, I guess. I would love to hear how you choose what perfume to wear each day. Well, I just did a reel on my Instagram where I said my toxic trait is that I spend hours curating the perfect perfume tray and then I wear something completely different that's not on the tray. And that pretty much sums up how I choose my perfume. I do have a tray of perfumes that I set out, sometimes it's once a month, sometimes I change it up every week. It changes, it just depends on my mood and how much time I have. But I do normally have a tray out, and that is what I use as a guide for myself if I need to reach for something quickly, or I'm having a day where I just can't decide, then I'll normally pick up something from the tray. But now that I have this really nice perfume cabinet that we installed when I moved up into this office, a lot of the time what I like to do is open the perfume cabinet and just have a look. But it just depends on how much time I have, because sometimes I'm rushing to get ready for work and I don't have time to, smell 10 different perfumes before I decide on one. So it changes daily. I have no process, I guess, other than to put out a tray of perfumes once a week or once a month and use that as a guide on the days that I'm struggling to make a decision. Sometimes it is really hard to make a decision. And when we're talking about hard life decisions, I really don't think that perfume should be up there, but yeah, I have no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I wear ambers in the middle of summer. Sometimes I wear freshies in the middle of winter. It just really depends on how I feel on the day. How do you choose your perfume? I want to know. Does anyone else have a better process? Does anyone have a process by which they choose their perfume? And then the last question to her question was, I'd love to hear how your no-buy year has affected the way you consume fragrance. I think I did answer that, but basically it's slowed me down. Even when I sample something now that I really, really love, I will still go and look it up and see how much, or if there's a bottle going that, is going at discount or being sold secondhand or whatever, I still will do that, or I'll find out where I can get it from. But I don't jump on the buy as quickly as I did before. So it has definitely slowed me down. I mean, now I definitely finish my samples before I buy a bottle. I sometimes upgrade to a decant before I buy a bottle, and sometimes by the time I get to the end of a sample and or a decant, I decide that it's not worth it for me. I don't like it enough to warrant having a full bottle of it. Sometimes I just buy a travel size of things because I think I really love that. I want more of it, but I don't really want 50 mils of it. I just want maybe 20 mils of it. So again, decants or travel sizes are much more common for me now, unless I find a bottle that's going secondhand at a really, really great price. What I have observed actually is that it used to be that when I went onto a fragrance Facebook group or something like that to buy a secondhand bottle, they would often be partials. You'd have maybe a third of the bottle left and stuff. But I have noticed that maybe in the last year or two, most of the bottles being sold on the Facebook groups are full. There's no half full bottles going. And I think that is an interesting observation in terms of the speed and the amount of perfume that people are buying and not wearing and then offloading. So it's actually really rare now to come across a bottle in a secondhand forum that is a third full, half full. That kind of makes me sad a little bit, especially when I want to buy just a little bit and not a whole bottle. Because that's what I used to love about buying partials, was that you got the benefit of still having the full bottle, but you only had a little bit in there. So it was good. It was cheaper for a start, but you could get that aesthetic. But now if I want a smaller portion, I have to buy a decant. And that's not the same. And I know that's not the same. I agree. I mean, everyone goes, oh, but it's not the same thing. Yeah, it's not the same thing. I agree. The important thing is the perfume, yes, but it's the whole feeling of having the packaging as well. And yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day. The Australian market, on a global scale, we are tiny. We're a tiny market, but the Australian fragrance community buy a lot of perfume. A lot. All right. So thank you, Madeline Vegan Perfume Girl 9015. I have answered all of your questions, I think. Thank you for your questions. Okay, so next question is from Perfumes and Coffee. Valeacha, hi, fellow Brisbane fragrance nerd. Valeacha has a really great channel as well called Perfumes and Coffee. Go check her out. I'll try and link her channel down below. Can you share the pivotal moment when you realized your passion for fragrances and decided to become a fragrance influencer? I don't think I can determine the pivotal moment in which I decided I had a passion for fragrances. I've kind of always liked fragrances. You know, I remember shopping for perfumes when I was a kid with my mum. I mean, they were cheap perfumes, but still. I had amassed a whole collection of the Impulse body sprays by the time I was about 8 or 10. I think I had all of them. I just loved smelling good, I guess. And I always found a way to have nice smells in a way that fit into my budget. So I guess the pivotal moment, maybe the pivotal moment in terms of, you know, going into social media was that my partner at the time, now husband, Matt, used to get kind of annoyed with me every time I'd like want to talk to him about perfume or like shove a perfume in his face and say, smell this, smell this. So I was trying to find people who wanted to talk about this stuff. And my initial thing was that I set up a website and then I wanted to write a blog. But I very quickly realized that it was very hard to get feedback on that, because unless you know how to get your blog seen through SEO on Google, it's really hard to actually generate enough traffic where people are engaging and actually writing comments. So that's when I turned to social media. And by that stage, I had started to discover this thing called YouTube. I was a little bit late off the boat in that regard. And I had started to discover some perfume channels like, obviously Demi Rawling, Katie Puckrick, Beauty Meow, Sebastian, Carlos, who was the Brooklyn fragrance lover. And so, I discovered a lot of these channels. I wasn't necessarily watching them on the regular until I discovered Pep's channel, The Sentinel. And I guess part of that was he's Australian as well. I mean, Demi is Australian. I did watch her, but her tastes weren't aligned with mine because she was very much into the sweeter gourmand and I was into the more woody spicy. So I didn't necessarily watch her channel a huge amount in the early days. Definitely knew who she was, but it was Pep's channel that I really resonated with, and Katie Puckrick. But then by the time I discovered perfume reviews on YouTube, Katie Puckrick had stopped. I don't think she was posting to her channel anymore. So that I've graduated from the blog, from the website, which I still have that, and I do want to reinstigate that because I do enjoy the process of writing about perfume, not necessarily always talking about it. But I graduated to Instagram. The good thing about that is that I discovered a community that was already there, and I sort of dived into that. And I guess that is where, even though I was already sort of into niche, if you want to, for want of a better word, niche fragrances. I didn't know that they were called niche fragrances at the time. I certainly wasn't into them as much as I am now, let's say. Like I'm, in fact, I think I've gone back the other way a little bit. I'm sort of back to where I was 10 or 12 years ago, where I don't really think about perfume in different categories like designer, celebrity, niche, indie. I just, in my brain, sometimes I will try and put a label on it for the benefit of a video and conveying where they sit in the market maybe, but in my head, it's just all perfume now, which I like. I feel like I've broken the barriers down for myself between all these different arbitrary categories that we put on these things and, people thinking that one is better than the other. I'm getting off track. I'm going to stop. But I hope that answers your question, basically. So it was probably more around 2018 that I started to delve into the online space to share my love of perfume beyond just the circle of people that I know. And that's when I sort of dived into the fragrance community at large, and I didn't start my YouTube channel until very end of 2019. But I didn't start it seriously until 2020. Does my husband geek out over fragrances like we do? You know, he did not, obviously, at the start. Otherwise, I probably would never have even got into this space if he did. But I'm very proud. I'm a proud frag wife because he bought his own bottle of perfume the other week, and it was a bottle of Histoire de Parfums Veni. And I already had a 15ml bottle, which I ultimately ended up giving to him because he loved it so much. He just wore it heaps. So he finished that, and then without even saying a word to me, he just went online and bought his own replacement. And it arrived in the mail this week. His words were, he was less proud and more horrified that I have contaminated him. Are there specific brands that you haven't had a chance to explore but are eager to try? Any particular reason or expectations behind your curiosity? Yes, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. I hate these questions because this is why I should start a wish list again. I stopped keeping a wish list because in a way I felt that writing it down to be able to revisit later only reignited the desire to buy the thing when I go back to it later. But I think I need to write down at least the things that I want to try, because I'm very bad at thinking of these things off the top of my head, sadly. I'll circle back to this question if I think of any throughout the course of this video. Is there a particular fragrance review or collaboration that stands out as a highlight in your journey as an influencer? A review that I've watched? Well, I mean, pretty much any of Katie Puckrick's reviews. Because they were so snappy, and she just has such a way with words. I mean, we all wish she would come back to Fragcom, but she has not. She did do one video recently, like a couple of months ago, I think, or maybe it was last year. And it was like here's a random perfume that I've just discovered that I like enough to talk about. And she just did this like off the cuff little review of this perfume. I can't remember what it was now. It might have been a diptyque or something. I'm not sure. But any of Katie Puckrick's reviews, although her review on Secretions Magnifique was pretty funny. And I think the other fragrance reviews that sort of stand out in my mind, I mean, I have a terrible memory, so I don't, it's not like I can think of any specific review, but people that I follow who have a way with words. So Victoria from Bois de Jasmine, and she also has a YouTube channel as well, but she doesn't upload all that regularly anymore. But she has a beautiful blog, and her writing is I just love her writing. I just feel so calm whenever I read anything that she writes. She's just beautiful. Her words are beautiful. Or any collaboration that stands out as a highlight in your journey as an influencer. In terms of fragrance collaborations, it's not really a collaboration though, because it's his brand. But Eugene from Les Abstraits has created his own perfume brand called Les Abstraits, and his perfumer is Antoine Lee. Those fragrances are just absolutely incredible. A collaboration that sticks out in my mind. Look, I don't own it, but the only one that jumps into my mind because it's just so, I guess, high profile is the Demi Rawling Fragrance du Bois collaboration on Minuit et Demi, but I don't own it, so it comes to mind because it got a lot of airtime. For good and bad, I think. I think a lot of people were a bit harsh on her, to be honest. I think people are a bit hard on her just generally. I mean, I know she hypes things up, sure. But the thing is, we all watch her knowing that she hypes things up. So I don't really know why that's such a big deal. You know what I mean? you know, I want to find out what's new, because she gets a lot of the new stuff as well that gets sent to her before it even gets released. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like people are a little bit hard on her. Anyway, that's a totally different topic. I'm getting off track. Are there specific perfume brands that you haven't had the chance to explore yet but are eager to try? Any particular reasons or expectations behind your curiosity? Well, it's a shame this question didn't come up prior to me going overseas last year, because there were a couple of fragrance brands that I was keen on trying, and I did try. One of them was Wesker Parfums, and they were at Fragrance, so I did get to try them, and thumbs up, really liked them. And the reason they piqued my curiosity, this is going to sound so bad, but the bottles. Basically, I had seen some people come back from Exants last year and they were showing the bottles and everything, and I just went, oh, those bottles are really pretty, and that's why I was interested in them. Filigree and Shadow is another one, and that's just because I've heard good things, and they seem to be getting a little bit of airtime on TikTok at the moment as well, so that's good. I am actually kind of on the hunt to find some brands that I haven't heard of yet. At the moment, things that are popping into my brain are just things that are not new brands to me. They're just new releases from brands that I already know and love. So it's not the same thing. I did go through Fragrantica at the end of last year, and I read all the articles around like the top new releases and stuff for 2023, and there were some brands in there that I hadn't heard of as well, so I did add those to a list somewhere. If I could pull it up easily I would, but I have no idea where I saved all that stuff. I'll have to go and do a search on my computer. But basically there's a few, but I'm very bad at keeping a list of stuff in one place, which I really need to learn to do better. Given your journey in the fragrance community, what advice would you offer to newcomers or aspiring fragrance enthusiasts looking to navigate and engage in this vibrant space? I love how you speak. I think just engage with other people. I mean, I remember that when I started on Instagram, one of the first friends that I made on Instagram, I'm not talking about people whose channels I was following and commenting on their stuff, but I'm talking the first actual friend that I made where somebody was conversing with me and then we met in person was Emma from Scent Obsessed Emma. And I remember being so nervous sending her a DM thinking, you know, she probably won't reply, or, you know, she might be too busy to respond, or she might think I'm, you know, a real dag, or, you know, just all of these things, because again, I'm an introvert and I overthink things and I talk myself out of things before I even start. But I did it anyway. I pushed through. She was absolutely delightful, and we started a whole conversation, and then now we're friends, and I just love her. She's great. So I guess it's about finding your people. And I've engaged with lots of other people now in person and through the internet. I even have a friend who lives in the Czech Republic who I've been conversing with for years on Instagram, and we finally got to meet in person when I went to Europe last year. So like, that's the best part about this whole thing, really, is all the people that you meet. So it even at some point becomes less about perfume. Perfume just becomes the conduit through which you make all these connections. So
the coffee connection.
Thank you. So that is what I recommend. Is it's hard sometimes, especially if you start your own channel and things like that and you want to grow your own space. But really, growing your own space is done through engaging with others, and that is the most rewarding part about doing any of this. And sometimes it does get really overwhelming and tiring, and sometimes you just have to take a break. But the good thing is, when you do that, there's always a couple of people who you've made a real connection with, who you can still continue to converse with during that time. And then when you come back to the rest of the community, when you've recharged, it's like you never left. And I think that is the nice thing too, is that everyone understands that no one can be online 24/7. You know, you have to actually live your life at some point. I don't know. It's a great community. I've had mostly really wonderful, lovely experiences connecting with you guys and connecting with people on Instagram. I think most people are really tolerant and everyone understands that this is a weird hobby. It's an expensive hobby. And people are very generous too, you know. Thank you, Valeacha, for those wonderful questions. They're actually really insightful and difficult to answer. And I feel a little bit embarrassed that I didn't prepare better for that. So I will try and circle back on some of those. But hopefully I answered them at least somewhat adequately. Jim says, great idea. I'm always interested in people's scent memories. So my question is, are there any particular scent memories, including those related to perfume, that have influenced your current tastes, either good or bad? Are you saying I have bad taste, Jim? I don't have bad taste. Okay, so I would say I have already kind of talked about this in the previous video, and that is my scent memories. The scent memories that really stand out to me are things like horses, leather, dirt, tropical florals, definitely. I mean, everywhere I've lived, we've always managed to have some kind of either tropical fruit tree or like a frangipani or something in the backyard. So we have frangipanis here. I remember, wow, that actually just brought up a memory. So when I was really little, in sort of like, I think the second or third place that we lived in, we just moved to a place called Port Hedland, which is on the northern side of WA, or sort of mid-northern side of WA, lower than Broome. We had a frangipani tree in our backyard, and it used to bloom so much. But I remember as a child picking, me and a friend used to do it, but we'd pick the flowers off the frangipani tree and we'd suck the sap out of the flower from that the frangipani flower has in it. I don't know if it's bad for you or not. I hope it's not. Didn't do me any damage, I don't think. But I used to love doing that. And then we'd make like necklaces and leis and things from the flowers. So like that's a fun memory. I guess the other memory is really around of smells is from my young childhood is probably my mother's perfume, which was Youth Dew by Estee Lauder. And my mother used to cook a lot, so lots of cooking, but European sort of cooking, so not that spicy, but mostly, I don't know, desserts and creamy things, which I can categorically say did not translate for me into my taste for perfume. Otherwise, I would have been an avid gourmand lover. My mother did love baking cakes and puddings and things like that. You know, the ocean was not something that necessarily translated into me loving aquatic fragrances, but I do love that minerally smell of the salt air, and which is probably why I quite enjoy Goldfield and Banks Pacific Rock Moss, because I feel like they nailed that minerally aspect and that salt fresh air aspect without it smelling like fishy or too marine like. So, but then otherwise, yeah, definitely the leathers, the musks, the woods, the earth, all of those things, because I was constantly around horses as a child, and those smells are my childhood basically, and I love it. I really want to try, this comes back to the Valeacha's earlier question, which was what are some brands that I've been wanting to try. Maison Detto is one out of New York. I've been following her since 2020, and I'm waiting for them to be distributed to Australia, because her whole premise of her, maybe they've branched out a little bit more now, but the original, the first few perfumes that they launched were all very equestrian focused. So yeah, anyway, so there you go. There's I knew things would come to me once I started talking about other stuff. You know, it's very hard when people ask me a direct question. What brands do you want to try? I don't know. Somebody said, what are your fragrance pet peeves? I think I've answered this one too, which is just, you know, when brands make a perfume loud for the sake of being loud rather than, excuse me, just sort of respecting the natural scent profile of something. Fragrance pet peeves. I don't know if I really have any. I don't mind so much when other people overspray. I don't necessarily want to drown myself in perfume, but I don't really mind if other people do. I'm okay with smelling other people's stuff. I'm okay with smelling other people's perfume, I should say. Okay, I think I've got one. My other fragrance pet peeve, I think, is, I'm going to sound like such a bar humbug. I'm going to sound like such a Scrooge, but trends. I get really fed up with trends. You know, when a specific perfume note is trending and then the next 20 releases for the year are all about cherry or all about, I don't know, oud or something, you know what I mean? Like I feel like we just get saturated with, the whole thing I like about perfume is diversity and being able to, you know, the fact that there's so many different perfumes and different scent profiles that I want to discover. But I just get so fed up with these trends where they pick a note and then for the rest of the year, that's all you're getting, whether you like it or not. Cherry perfumes. You want another perfume? Here's a cherry perfume. But the beauty of perfume is that it's been around for a really long time, and even if all the new releases are utilising all the same notes and being really boring, you can always go back to other perfumes that you've never smelled but have been around for years, and you can always discover something new even if it itself is not new. Okay, so the next question is, hi Cherie, I often wonder what your job is anytime you mention a work trip or going to the office. Yeah, okay, I knew this question was going to come up. It's the one I dread because it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I can't tell people, or I can't say, I don't know. But from a privacy perspective, I will refrain from telling you exactly who I work for or what I do. But I have a science background. I also have a little bit of legal background. I don't have a full law degree, but I did practice in the legal field for a while in a very specific niche area. And now my job is actually pretty fun. It's kind of tech transfer. So taking stuff into the market and building a business around it. So it's not my business that I build, but I help to get things into the marketplace. So that's what I do. I work for a national entity, so we have offices all over the country, and that's why sometimes I end up jumping on planes and stuff because I have to go see people in a different office. We try and all share that our team is actually scattered all over the country. So Australia is a pretty big country, in which case we sometimes need to get together face to face. So I also often have to find investors to invest in these companies that we establish. So I, have to go and meet with investors sometimes. So that's my job. It's actually really, really fun. And I love being part of building something, even though I'm not the one really building it. I'm just helping to set it up so that whoever's baby it is can run with it and make it into something in the big wide world. And that was the last question. Wow, so we're done. I have finished my Q&A. It only took 3 SIM cards. I appreciate your interest and your ongoing support. Thank you so much. All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to go finish my coffee, and you know what I realized I just forgot to do? I forgot in the last video to come back to the samples I had spritzed on of Panthea Iris and Coco Mademoiselle. I did film it, but I forgot to put it into the actual video. So cue the footage of me giving my final thoughts on the comparison of Panthea Iris and Coco Mademoiselle. So the Iris in the Coco Mademoiselle is definitely coming out more now, but I'm still getting a lot of the patchouli and a lot of the fruits, whereas the Panthea Iris, no, they're very, very different to my nose. The only thing is that iris note in Coco Mademoiselle is a little bit more prominent, and obviously that is a similarity to Panthère Iris, because Panthère Iris is very much focused on iris, but there's so much more going on in the Coco Mademoiselle that overrides that iris that I don't think that they're that similar. So that's my conclusion. Let me know if you feel differently and what you get, and also bearing in mind that this is Coco Mademoiselle Intense, not Coco Mademoiselle EDP. Thanks for watching. See you next time.